The house I grew up in was ordinary, or so I always thought. A small two-story place in a quiet suburban neighborhood outside of Pittsburgh. Nothing about it stood out. Our neighbors were normal, our yard was normal, and for years I convinced myself our lives were normal too. But if you've ever lived in a place long enough, you start to notice little things. Strange drafts, doors that won't stay closed. The occasional creak at night you tell yourself is just the wood settling. That's how it was in our house, until I was old enough to realize those sounds weren't harmless at all. Back then, I shared a room with my younger sister Kelly. Two twin beds on opposite sides of the room, a dresser between us, and a single closet we both hated using. The closet always smelled faintly of damp earth, even though it wasn't connected to the basement. Our parents brushed it off as old house smell, but Kelly refused to put her clothes in there. She said she heard whispering whenever the door was open. I laughed at her for years, until the night I heard it too. It was past midnight, and I woke up to the soft sound of breathing. At first I thought it was Kelly, but when I turned toward her bed, I realized she was already awake, staring at me with wide eyes. She mouthed, "Do you hear it?" That's when I realized the breathing wasn't coming from her. It was coming from the closet. The door was cracked open just an inch, but it was enough. Every inhale and exhale was slow, deliberate, like someone trying not to be noticed. I wanted to shout for my parents, but the fear was so heavy, it glued me to the bed. Kelly pulled the blanket over her head, and I did the same, both of us trembling in silence until morning. When the sunlight finally broke through the curtains, the closet door was wide open. Our parents didn't believe us, of course. They said we had vivid imaginations. Dad even went so far as to empty the closet completely, banging on the walls to prove nothing was hiding in there. But kids know when something isn't right. From that night on, we both refused to sleep without the hallway light on, and even then, neither of us could shake the feeling we weren't alone. Years passed, and I eventually moved into my own room once Kelly got older. I thought putting some distance between me and that closet would make things easier. For a while it did. But then the house found new ways to remind me it wasn't ours. It never had been. It started with the voices. Faint at first, like someone calling my name from another room. I'd hear Mom's voice asking me to come downstairs, only to find her fast asleep in bed. Or Dad's voice telling me to check the garage. But when I'd get there, the light would flicker and the door would slam shut behind me. Sometimes it was Kelly's voice, crying for help, even when she wasn't home. One night, I woke to the sound of someone walking up the stairs. The heavy thud of boots echoed through the hallway, slow and purposeful. I held my breath as the footsteps stopped right outside my bedroom door. Then the knob turned. Once. Twice. Slowly, like whoever it was wanted me to know they could come in whenever they wanted. The door never opened, but the sound of breathing pressed against the wood, like they were leaning their face right against the other side. I didn't sleep at all that night. By the time I turned 17, I'd become an expert at pretending everything was fine. I had friends over, did homework in the living room, ate dinner with my family. But the truth was, I avoided being alone in that house whenever I could. The walls seemed to listen, the floors seemed to follow. Kelly was the only one who admitted she still felt it too, and she begged our parents to move. They said we couldn't afford it. Then came the night that changed everything. It was winter, the kind of night where the snow muffles all sound outside, leaving the house deathly quiet. My parents had gone out to a late dinner, leaving me and Kelly home alone. We were in the living room, watching TV, when the power went out. Total darkness swallowed the house. Kelly grabbed my arm and whispered, "It's in the hallway." At first I thought she was just panicking, but then I heard it too, the same slow breathing we remembered from years ago. Only this time it wasn't coming from the closet upstairs. It was right there, just beyond the living room doorway. Heavy, labored, almost wet, like lungs, struggling to function. I fumbled for my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness, landing on the doorway. Empty, but the breathing didn't stop. If anything, it grew louder, circling the room though nothing was visible. Kelly clutched my hand so tight it hurt, and we both backed toward the kitchen. That's when every cabinet door in the kitchen slammed open at once. The sound was so violent, it rattled the windows. Kelly screamed and I yanked her toward the back door, but it wouldn't budge. It was like something was holding it shut from the outside. We turned back toward the living room, and in the faint light of my phone, we saw it. A figure, tall and thin, standing in the corner where the shadows pooled deepest. It had no face, no features, just a darkness thicker than the rest of the room. But its head tilted, almost curiously, as if studying us. And then it spoke. No, not spoke, mimicked. "Help me," it said in Kelly's exact voice. She collapsed into tears, and I felt my whole body go numb. The thing stepped forward, its movements jerky, unnatural, like a puppet pulled on tangled strings. My phone flickered, the light dying, and for a second, we were swallowed in pitch black. When the screen came back, the figure was gone. The front door burst open on its own, and cold air rushed in. Without thinking, I dragged Kelly outside into the snow. We waited on the curb until our parents came home, shivering, unable to explain what had just happened. That was the last night I ever stayed in that house. My parents brushed it off as a power surge, maybe even a prank. But I know what I saw, and Kelly does too. To this day, she refuses to talk about it. Years later, after I'd moved out and gone to college, I heard from a neighbor that the family who bought our house didn't last long. They moved out after 6 months, leaving most of their belongings behind. When asked why, the father only said one thing: "There's something in the walls. It watches you when you sleep."